You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from SIBO. The Option Block is brought to you by SIBO. SIBO's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.sibo.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is Thursday, usually Blood Red Thursday. Let's see what we got on the docket today. My name, of course, Mark Longo, coming back at you from the Chi-Town studios. Yes, we're back and raring to go. And, of course, if you're raring for a little bit of extra in your options trading cup, head on over to the Pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. It's a fun place to go. I think you're going to like it. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro as we go around the horn and see who's joining us today. And you know what? Uncle Mike's been on me for a while to say, you know what? These other guys, they're fine. You know, this Rock Lobster guy and this Flowmaster guy. But, you know, at the end of the day, the spotlight should really be on me. It should be the Uncle Mike show. And you know what? We did that on Monday for him, but that was not enough. That was not enough to satiate his massive ego, listeners. He said, you know what? I demand a full Uncle Mike unfettered spotlight week. And so, you know what, listeners? We had no choice but to cave to his demands, kind of like geopolitics right now. Yes. It is Uncle Mike Spotlight Week because joining us in the catbird seat yet again, the man who takes your calls over there at St. Charles Wealth Management, none other than the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show. Are you pleased now? Are you happy now? Uncle Mike Spotlight Week in full effect.
Not enough. I'm gunning for Longo's chair next.
Well, if you can talk that much, I will happily pop a lozenge and rest my voice.
I'll be careful what I wish for with that comment.
that way lies madness, sir. Trust me. Trust me.
Well, on top of that, we got the futures. We got TWIFO coming up today too. It is. I got 3 hours of just me and you all week this week on the Options Insider.
There we go, Uncle Mike Spotlight Week. You asked for it, and you got it. I also think what was helping today is that the Flowmaster, he doesn't know what to do when he comes on the show and the markets aren't blood red. A little bit of a spoiler for what we got cooking here today, listeners. So let's get there now. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, let's get down to business out there in the markets. And business, if you're in the Uncle Mike super bullish camp, is quite good. Yet another thing, I think the markets are celebrating Uncle Mike's Spotlight Week as well, because they have done naught but buy since the last time we were live together here on the option block on Monday. Of course, massive relief rally kicking in after the cessation of hostilities over there in the Middle East. And it was quite literally a relief rally, because there really wasn't much concrete to rally on. It was really just, oh, the guns are silent for at least a little while. Let's all rally off that. Of course, we are waiting to see what the actual details are. Iran says one thing. We say the strait's open. They say it's not. They say they can still continue to enrich uranium. We say no. They say Lebanon's part of the ceasefire. Israelis say hold my bear. So a lot going on over there. It doesn't seem like anyone has really agreed to much of anything from a concrete perspective, except the fact that they're both declaring victory in different ways. So we shall see. Nonetheless, the guns are, I think, mostly silent, so that's a good thing. Strait's really not open yet. Only, I think, 3 tankers have gone through, and they're getting gouged quite an exorbitant rate to do so. So a lot of things going on over there that still make you say, maybe raise a questioning eyebrow, but nonetheless, the market's been liking it over the last 24 hours, and it seemed like some of that exuberance was fading a little bit this morning. We rallied well north of 6,800 yesterday in the S&P, and then coming back down today a little bit in the early part of the session. It seems like we bounced off right around 67 and 3, actually 67.60 if you want to be precise out there in the cash before things looks like they're firming up yet again. So maybe some more details coming out as we kick off the show. Either way, S&P up 0.2% right now, Dow up about 0.75%, and the NASDAQ up about 0.75% as well. And our old pal VIX Cash was hanging out right at a 20 handle pretty much exactly as we kicked off the show. It puts it down a little over 4 points, about 4.25 points from where it was on the Monday show. And our old pal VVIX taking a bit of an exhale. That's what happens when the guns go silent. Down 8 points to 106 as we kicked off the show. So a lot to unpack there. Uncle Mike, you asked for, nay, demanded your Uncle Mike Spotlight Week. Have at it, sir. The floor, indeed, the rest of the trading block, all yours. I'm going to take a hiatus.
I don't really have that much to say. Back to you, Mark.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Good thing I got that nice little rest in for my vocal cords.
Got it. I mean, the big story, of course, is what's going on in the Persian Gulf with us and Iran. And, it would make me I'd rest a lot easier if we could just simply get Sergeant Slaughter and the Iron Sheik to just have it out in the ring one more time. Winner take all. Slaughter wins. Slaughter represents Trump. The Sheik represents Iran. And then we just have it out. That would make things a lot more simpler. And then that would be my solution to the matter. But unfortunately, the Iron Sheik is no longer with us. And so we have to let our world leaders decide such a thing. But with that being said, of course, the market is rallying right now. I tend to think that the Strait of Hormuz is actually open because of the fact, not because I heard it on the news, but because the markets have been rallying. I'm going to go back to the horse that I've been beating to death the last couple of weeks, and that you will not find fully non-biased truthful news on CNN. You will not find fully unbiased truthful news on Fox News. They both will have a bias to them, one to the left, one to the right. I'll let you figure out which is which. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out. The only truthful news source is a chart of the S&P 500. And the fact that we are rallying like we have, that tells me that the S&P, the Strait of Hormuz is open. It is good news because big money people who actually know what's going on, who don't need CNN or Fox News to determine what's happening because they just know, or they have their own people, so to speak, they're buying. And as we've talked about on this show many times, why does the market go up? More buyers than sellers. Why does it go down? More sellers than buyers. And as of right now, we have a decent rally today, up 0.7% in the S&P. So that tells me that there's buyers in the marketplace. Some other things that we're seeing today outside of stocks, we have a little bit of a move. We have a little bit of movement in silver, up $1.50 in SLV, crossing the 69 handle. Gold's up roughly 1.2% as well. So we are getting some movement there. Bonds, we're getting some buyers in bonds. So we're getting close to back to where we were on January 1st in a lot of areas. The S&P 500 ended at 2025 at 68.45, and so today it's at 68.28. So we are 17 points away from being positive on the year in the stock market. 7,002, I believe, 7,002 is the all-time high of the S&P. At one point, we got down to 63.16, which is roughly 9.5% below the all-time high. So we couldn't quite get to the point to where we were at a correction, but we were very close to it. And that has been the bottom so far. So it'll be interesting to see if we do make a rally past the 68.45 mark. I hate to call it a concerning number, but to me, that's the next point of resistance on the S&P, because that's where we were at the end of last year. And if we want to go positive on the year, that's where we have to be. So that's going to be, I don't know if I want to call it a point of technical resistance from a chart standpoint, but I do think it's a key number. And that's something that I think we really need to watch over the course of the next few days to see if we can break through that, or if we go right up to 68.44 and then the market decides it does not want to go positive on the year, and then we shoot right back down. That's something that's very possible. You never really know. In terms of some various individual names, Amazon is actually having a really big day today. Amazon's up 4.5%, up $10 on the day, going from 220 to 230. So we have some of one of the bigger names. We have some pretty nice movement in Amazon, which has kind of been, it has not been having the prime effect on the market that it has had in past years. I thought that was a pretty good pun. It took me a second to think of it. Also, we have Meta is up 3.4% on the day, over 20 handles, the 633 mark. Netflix has crossed the 100 mark, up 2.5%. Nvidia is up $1.70, so we're up just a little bit under 1% with where we are at with that. So we are getting some movement in some familiar names that have driven the market up to begin with. One of the Debbie Downer of the day has been Palantir. Very glad I'm collared in that right now, as we talked about on the show last week with my exposure to Palantir. And so that one is actually down 7% on the day, just around $10. So we have some downside in that. So even on up days, the market doesn't always go up in everything all the time. There's always something good on a bad day and always something bad on a good day. Russell 2000 is up just under 1% on the day. So that is definitely following along with the rally. And so ultimately, I think what it's going to boil down to, of course, is the two things I think we really need to watch for with the geopolitics is the Strait of Hormuz open? That's a big deal. And then once the United States takes all of our naval fleet, if you will, out of where they are right now, once those things happen and the ships come back home and the Strait of Hormuz is open, that's the sign that the war is actually over. Until we get those things, then the conflict's still going on, and we still need to be aware of it and still need to invest accordingly. And that is what I am seeing today, Mark.
Yeah, our chat's feeling your pain. They say Palantir hasn't seen a green tick since you mentioned how much you had on the Pro Q&A a couple of weeks ago. So they're feeling your pain as well there, Uncle Mike.
Hey, just more opportunities to sell the puts for profit and buy more Palantir, right? Let the market pay for my dollar cost averaging on the collars, right?
That's what it's all about, baby. Let's see what it's all about out there in the market today. You know, VIX starting to tick up a little bit here as we're talking, not in terms of value, but just in terms of volume. It was under 500,000 contracts pretty much right as the show started. Now closing in on nearly 600,000, about 576,000. So about 100,000 contracts going up just in the last few minutes. So something's afoot out there in VIX land. Like we said, nearly 600,000 contracts right now. The ADV 1.1 million. So well on its way to hitting that ADV today, unless the second half really kind of falls out of bed. And if you're wondering what is the hot option out there in VIX land today, it is a little bit of downside. It's the 18 puts. It looks like the 2018 put spread is going up about 60,000 times, 58,000 times for the 20 puts, and about 62,000 times for the 18 puts. If you're wondering, those 18 puts going up for about 6 to 7 cents in that ballpark. So we thought we'd ask you folks, quite simply, take a little bit of a different spin on our usual VIX hot option question, which is quite simply, not do you want to buy them or sell them, but do you think those puts will expire in the money? April VRO for VIX. Will it be below 18? Yes or no? Very simple question. Get over there at option. Just went live a few minutes ago. We will come back a little bit later in the show and reveal what you folks have to say. Of course, at option, you should be visiting it all day long anyway. All kinds of fun stuff hitting that account all the time throughout the week. Not just VIX polls, even though we have one or two of those going up there on the week as well. SPY looking kind of spicy out there as well. 8.5 million contracts. The ADV 12.6 million right now. So again, just about 4 million contracts. Less than half the volume it's already put up just to get to its ADV today. So we'll see. A SPY looking kind of spicy. The S, similar 3.15 million contracts on the tape. The ADV in the SPX right now, 5.4 million. So seems like it's on pace to hit that again. Second half of the session, we'll have to wait and see. Small caps looking spicy again, 1.2 million. The ADV is 2.3 million. So a little bit north of halfway to their ADV. By the way, small caps up almost a full percent right now, 1%. That's got to put them up substantially on the year now. Let's go look and see. Up 5.6% again. So that's pretty close to the level, as I recall, that they got to last time before all this pretty much fell apart. They got a little bit higher. It was like 20. They're at 263 roughly right now in small caps. The end of January, they were about 269. So they were at a little bit higher level. Then, of course, we all know what happened, and it fell out of bed. They bottomed out, looks like, just on the 30th of March at 239. So from the peak to trough, they had fallen 30 handles in IWM and now gaining a good chunk of that back. So small caps certainly feeling the relief rally out there. Are you feeling it out there, listeners? Maybe we'll get to that. Maybe that'll be our question of the week next week. We got another one hitting the tape right now. That's kind of fun. Out to the Qs we go. The Qs saying, don't forget about us. Don't forget about your beloved tech-heavy NASDAQ, because we're putting up some paper out there today as well. 4.35 million contracts on the tape. The ADV 6.45. So closing in on that ADV as well. And now out to the single names. Uncle Mike already broke a few of them down for us. Let's do it in a little bit more detail. Let's start in a name that will never pass his lips. So on Uncle Mike Spotlight Week, we're not going to hear about Bitcoin, so we have to force it in. Let's start number 10. It's the monster. By the way, looking slightly more than respectable in the top 10 today. 359,000 contracts is what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. That's almost 10,000 contracts above our threshold for respectability. 350 is that line in the sand that we draw every day. So the monster exceeding that today, looking, dare I say it, respectable. Also looking a little green out there today as well. 131.5, almost up nearly 3.25, about 2.5% out there for the monster right now. Number 10, looking spicy. Uncle Mike probably angry that his cabal also buying a little bit of Bitcoin with the rest of the things that it's buying. I'll have to talk to those guys. Number 9, Mr. Softy. They're saying rally. What rally? They're selling off about $2, about 0.5%. 372.40 is where Mr. Softy is hanging out, I should say. Right now, listeners, Mr. Softy, man, just having a hard time catching and then maintaining a bid out there this year. Let's see, a name that hasn't had a hard time catching bids of late. It's AMD. Good old AMDA. 234.5, up about 2.75, or a little over 1, about 1.2% today. Good for number 8, 476 on the tape for AMDA. If you want more A-Tech names, you know what? We're here for you on the show. It's the Fruit Company, 259.88, up about exactly $1 today, good for 529,000 contracts, and the number 7 spot. In our countdown today, number 6, the artist formerly known as Facebook, Meta, roaring back above the par strike and continuing that rally today, up another 20 handles. So they broke the par strike yesterday, up another 20 handles today, up about 3.3%. 632 and 3/4 is where Meta is hanging out. They're saying 500 handle, that's in the rearview mirror for us, at least for today. Number 6, 604 on the tape for Meta. Number 5, it's Intel, 60.5. Man, we go away for a couple of days and Intel is just on the rampage. Google expanding their partnerships with Intel for AI chips. So we were talking to someone not that long ago loading up on the 60 strike in Intel. Seems like they had an inkling of what was cooking out here. 60.5 today. That's up another $1.50 or 2.6%. If you're wondering, over the last 5 days since the last time we were live on this show, that stock up another $14.25 or 30%. My goodness. Intel just $20 roughly 6 months ago, whenever they went down to DC, around that time frame. So 3x in Intel since then. Absolutely wild stuff. Wild stuff in my old stomping grounds. Number 5, 762 on the tape for them. Uncle Mike, we already touched on this. We won't belabor the point, but your beloved Palantir, you know, detente in the Middle East, not exactly good for business with the Palantir folks, and they're selling off $10 or about 7%, right around 130 and 3/4 right now. Over the last 5 days, they're kind of doing not quite a reverse Intel, but not quite a great run either. They're off nearly 10% or about 13 handles over the last 5 days. And if you go from their peak on Tuesday at 155, they're down about 25 handles, or pretty much double that. So kind of a rough turn here for Palantir. Number 4, 927 on the tape. Uncle Mike, he's busy just bailing on all of his puts and readjusting lower as we speak. Number 3, out to another A-Tech name. You thought we were done, but nope, we got more for you. It's the Amazonians. 1.16 million contracts on the tape already. Amazon feeling the love. Oh, they're whispering the magic letters of AI as well. They're saying, you know what? Maybe we'll sell some of our AI chips. And bam, another 10.5 handles, 4.75%. 231.70 is where they're trading right now. Maybe the prospect of all their data centers and offices in the Middle East not being attacked, also probably a good thing. Either way, number 3, the Amazonians, 1.16 million out there. Number 2, yes, I said number 2. It's the artist formerly known as Nevada. Yes, it's Nvidia. 183.5, up $1.50 today, putting up 1.4 million contracts out there in Nvidia land. And then the big dog today, gaining a little bit back. They've been on a rough stretch. Over the last month, they're off 13% or 51 handles. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Tesla. Nearly 2 million contracts today, 1.92 million, gaining back about $4.50 or 1.3%. Obviously a long way to go. But for the bulls, they'll take what they can get out there. Again, nearly 2 million contracts already for Tesla today. That's a pretty spicy day. Usually we see them around maybe a little bit north of 2 million for a full day. So obviously a fair amount of paper. In fact, that intrigues me. Let's go look really quickly. You'll get the full analysis later on today on the hot options report, listeners. But let's look right now. Let's see what is the hot option in Tesla land today. What is lighting up the tape? And it's the 340 puts. They've traded 102,000 times already. These are a little over $7 out of the money puts right now. They traded for an average price of $3.70, so they are not giving these away. Looks like paper might have been selling these, which obviously right now is the way to go. Can we stay above 340 by tomorrow? I guess we will find out. That's a lot of paper. If you add in number 2, the 350 calls, they've traded about 100,000 times already too. So people are not messing about in Tesla. It looks like paper is buying those for around 222 and a quarter. So I guess if you like that bullish risk reversal, you could do it 10 handles wide and still have nearly $1.50 in your pocket. So wild stuff out here in Tesla land today, listeners, topping our list. And you know, otherwise it's kind of a light week on the earnings front. Delta was on Wednesday. We had a BlackBerry before the open today. and WD-40, all you looking for your lubricant needs after the bell. A WD-40 has you covered out there after the bell today, listeners. In terms of action on the earnings season front, still hanging out at about 127% for this season, so still substantially above our long-term average, which is hanging out right around 102%. So still a banger out there. Still right now in the aggregate, the bias has to be to buy vol until it's not, and that is a wild thing to say out loud, because for a long time we said, it's a complete coin flip, the earnings season. And these days, at least for the last year roughly or so, it's been pretty heavily biased towards buying some flow. Speaking of bias, let's see if we can find some biases to the upside or to the downside, because it is time for the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, everybody, it is time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is usually time to unleash the Flowmaster on the Thursday show. But you know what? Uncle Mike called me up at the start of the week. He said, you know what? This Flowmaster thing, I can do at least as good of a job on the odd block as him. Why don't you let me in? Put me in, coach, and let me have at it on the odd block. So, Uncle Mike, are you ready? Are you excited? Is this finally what you wanted, sir?
Hey, I'm not trying to replace the Flowmaster. I fully recognize he's the Flowmaster, and he has the name the Flowmaster for a reason. He is the master. And so I am just the backup quarterback trying to do my best. I'm like the guy that fills in for Tom Brady while he has to go out and do some endorsements or say good things about Bitcoin like he has, actually, ironically. And so I'm the backup QB. I'll do my best.
It's not what you said on your phone call on Monday, but I digress, sir. If you want to play the demure fellow here, I'll allow it. But let's go on out. Let's kick it off. Let's get hot. Let's get spicy. The kids like when we get some newcomers into the game here, so let's do just that. Let's welcome Photronics Inc. to our long list of names that have been profiled here on the Options Insider Radio Network for the last 19 plus years. Ticker symbol PLAB, P-L-A-B, trading $44.40, up about $1.10 or 2.5% out here in PLAB. If you're wondering what the heck is PLAB, this is an American semiconductor photo mask manufacturer. So there you go. They're a member of the E-beam initiative. Does that not tell you all about all things PLAB? Well, you know what will tell you a lot about PLAB is the chart. And, you pretty much just have to look and see that they have semi in their name somewhere. You can probably guess that they had a pretty decent year, and that is the case. As of right now, they're up $25 or 129% on the year. They really came in a couple of big buckets. In fact, if you bought them a year ago, so right after the big sell-off, so April 9th, a year ago, so right after the tariff tantrum, the madness, the meltdown, if you bought them a year ago, by the end of the year, pretty much end of December, you were still, heading into December at least, you were still pretty much only up about $1 or $2 on the year. So you're up, obviously, but it wasn't great. It wasn't until right at the tail end of the year, December 9th, they shot up into the mid-20s, and then December 11th, they hit about $40. So they had a nice pop right there in December 11th. That was right around chip madness time. So there was a lot of love being spread around in chip land and semi land around that time. And then they kind of settled back down. End of the year, December 31st, they went out exactly at $32. So still a nice run from their $19 level in April, but off their highs about $8. And then they started rallying again. February 25th, they got up to Looks like their high for the year, about 45.5. Then they came back to earth again, March 6th, 32 bucks, hanging out there for a little bit, and then right back up again. This is a very volatile semi-mask manufacturer. They got up to 40 bucks again back in late March, March 25th, 43 and a quarter. Sold off again, 36 bucks March 30th, and now they are rallying yet again up to 44, almost 44 and a half dollars right now, and within spitting distance of their 52-week high. This also looks like this name's actually been around for a while. So interesting that they are a newcomer because they have data going back all the way to March of 87. So yeah, they've been around for a little bit. Weird that we haven't really delved into this name in the past. But nonetheless, they are on the docket today, listeners. What did our Eye of Sauron spot out here? And everyone's new favorite, this is PLAB. Somebody came in this morning with the stock 44.53, so about a dime above where it is right now. And they said June doubles, June 55s. How are those bad boys? They got a market of $1.45 at $2. So all things considered, going out to June, roughly 10 handles out of the money. It's not a terrible market. $1.45 at $2. And they said, you know what, good sir? I will trade 1,200 of these bad boys for $1.90 because why not? That's what cool kids do. So, Mr. Uncle Mike, it looks like somebody taking a little bit of a nibble to the upside, going all the way out to June. Worth noting, by the way, there are earnings included in that time frame. The next announcement, listeners, is on May 27th. So you're buying June. You are getting the earnings announcement as well. I'm sure that factored into their calculus. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what say you? Are you down for a little bit of PLAB June doubles for nearly $2?
You know what? I don't think that's, if you're going to spec on that, I don't think that's a bad way to go because you do have an earnings announcement in it. You're going out to June, so you still got a couple months on it. And based on the past movement, I don't think it's out of the question that that could possibly happen. I mean, obviously you want this would have to be done with speculative money, of course, from a financial planning perspective. But if you're going to spec on something, you might as well spec on something. That's what I always say. So I don't think it's a bad idea for what they're trying to do.
All right, listeners, let's keep on cranking. Why not, listeners? Because it's always fun to keep cranking out here. And you know what? We got a little hot stuff coming in right now, breaking off of the old Eye of Sauron. So let's just add it into the list. You know, when the Eye of Sauron speaks, we must all answer, listeners. And it looks like this time, listeners, we are directing our gaze out. I hope if I could type the right ticker. There we go. All right. We're going out to Satellogic Inc., ticker symbol SATL. Everybody loves a little bit of SATL. That's SATL, listeners out there. So interesting stuff out here in all things SATL. Let me just look really quick. Yeah, we have talked about this one. I thought so. We talked about this on Oddities back on January 23rd. We'll come back to that in a second. But right now, Satellogic on the main network. I don't think we have not discussed it on the main network. So a first time here on the old main network. $7.54, up about 2/3 of a buck, or about 9.5%. So popping hard out there today. Obviously, as the name implies, they are a satellite company. That's been a very hot and also volatile sector over the past couple of years. And this chart kind of reflects that. A year ago, they were $3.50. So obviously they have more than doubled since then, up a little over $4. But they were $3.50 for pretty much almost the entirety of the year until October of last year. They just hung out right around that $4, $3.50 to $4 range. And they took a beating. November 18th, they sold off to their low of about $1.25, right around November 20th, 18th to 20th, in that range. Then they started turning around, climbing out of it. By January of this year, they were up to $5.50. So they had more than quadrupled since that roughly $1.20 low out there, $1.25 low out there. So they had a nice little run in January. And then right back down again by February 13th. So right around Valentine's Day, they sold off to $2.80. Hung out there for a while until mid-March. So pretty much a month until St. Patrick's Day. Then they started climbing again. And they got up to, by March 26th, they were up to $6.50. And they sold off again March 30th down to about $4.90. And then since then, over the last week and change, just rocketing north again, up, let's see, they're from about $5, a little bit shy of it, all the way up to where they are right now. They hit $7.99 earlier this morning. So this one, absolutely on the rampage. I'll have to look and see what the actual news here, or what the news is here, I should say, outside of Uncle Mike and his cabal just buying a whole bunch more. It looks like they're going to issue some more stocks. That would seem to be going the other way. That's going to be diluting this bad boy. So I don't know what's driving it outside of just more buyers and sellers out here right now. But interesting stuff. That brings us to what the Eye of Sauron spotted out here today. And it looks like we got a little bit of upside. Go figure. I know you're thinking I was going to say far out of the money puts, but no. We're going calls yet again when the stock was at $7.50 exactly. So at the time, that was a brand new 52-week high. Somebody came in and said, you know what? I need a little bit more of this tasty upside. April 9s, how are they? So again, the stock was $7.50. They said April 9s. They got 25 cents at 30, which seems like an absolutely redonkulous market. Nickel wide, $1.50 out of the money. I'll have to go look and see if maybe something was parked there, but 30 cents nickel wide market for that seems kind of wild. Nonetheless, they said, I like that. I will trade nearly 2,000, about 1,800 of them for 30 cents. And then actually, I take it back. They did those later. Early on, they came in about, let's see, about an hour and a half earlier and said, April 9s, how are they? And they got 25 at 35, so a little bit more sensible market. The stock at the time was actually higher, $7.83. So someone must have parked a 30-cent offer in the book or something, and they came in and scooped it later, because there's no reason they would be at 30 cents on those, especially if they just traded about 1,000 of them earlier in the day for 35 cents, lifting the offer. So kind of interesting stuff out there. So either way, it looks like a lot of folks coming to nibble on the 9 strike. If you're wondering, are there earnings? Good sir, the answer is not in this cycle. The next announcement is on May 15th. So Uncle Mike, April 9s. Folks appear to be swinging for the fences in SATL logic. What say you, sir?
Can't say I'm as much of a fan of this trade as I am the other one, even if you are going to spec. What reason does it have to go up that significantly over the course of the next 8 days? That's a lot of movement, and that's a lot of money that was paid for it. So can't say I'm a huge fan of it, but this isn't the world with which I live, so what do I know? So I think that if it were me in this instance, if I really had a reason for it to go higher during that time frame, I would probably just buy a spread instead in some way, shape, or form. I didn't look to see what the 10s are trading for or anything like that, but I think that there's better ways of speculating on this than doing that. Also, with the amount of money that it is going to move, this is one to where I'm thinking of the Viceroy. I know he's not an stock under $5 kind of guy, but in this case, I might expand it a little bit because it's not that much over $5, and I might have just bought the stock in this case. So I can't say I'm a fan of this trade.
Well, you invoked the Viceroy, and he definitely would not be a fan of this one. You're right. This one kind of interesting. If you're willing to take a little downside, then maybe the stock is the way to go, listener. Maybe you like just swinging for the fences, in which case SATL has you covered here, listeners. Speaking of covering stuff, let's go back and cover some Flowmaster favorites, shall we? Let's go back to the January 29th show where we talked about one of my second, let's say, favorite ticker names. You know, the favorite has still got to be Wolf Speed, a.k.a. the Wolf, because that's just a phenomenally ridiculous ticker by every way, shape, and form, and certainly name. But right behind it is the other Wolf, a.k.a. Terawulf, ticker symbol WULF, so the more Germanic or Anglo-Saxon wolf, if you will. $19.38 today, up about $1.33 or 7.3%. So a good day for the wolf. It's been a freaking hell of a year for the wolf as well. So compare that to Wolf Speed, which pretty much just fell out of bed and was questioning whether it could still be a going concern. The Terawulf on fire, up $16.80 or 651% since a year ago, and it was trading around $2.50. So my goodness. So forget Nvidia, forget all these other trades, forget crude, forget vol. Just buy Terawulf a year ago and you're sitting pretty, up 650%. My goodness. What did we talk about on the Jan 29th show, listeners, with the Flowmaster? Well, looks like the Flowmaster was profiling a whole bunch of February call love. At the time, the stock was $14.14. And somebody was coming in and nibbling to the upside. They said, Feb 16s, how are they? They got 67 at 71. That's a weirdly tight market. And as you will see, not the real market, because this person came in and said, you know what? I want to buy 36,000. What's the market for me? And they ended up sweeping it. They ended up paying all the way up to essentially 83 cents. So about 12 cents through the offer on multiple exchanges to get this bad boy done. Yeah, looking at these prices, this is wild. 71 cents here, 71 cents here, and then keep going up. And then the balance on the box for 83 cents. Whatever, 41 here, 71, 27 for 71, blah, 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 blah. 34,809 for 83 cents. So what the hell was that 71 cents offer? That was nonsense. But I digress, listeners. So they came loaded for beer. They were buying themselves some serious upside here in the Wolf. And you might say, man, they probably knocked it out of the park. Actually, they were buying, listeners, the 16, and the stock was at about $14. So they were looking for a nice little pop, and the stock had already moved a pretty good clip already from $2 up to $14. So it's already been quite the tear. And maybe it was a little bit exhausted. Either way, the stock rallied into Feb expiration, but didn't quite have enough oomph. It closed $15 and a penny. There's all kinds of problems when things close at 15 and a penny, right? Because then you have issues. You're getting auto exercise, whether you want it or not, for a penny. All sorts of fun things trigger when you're a penny in the money. But obviously, they were buying the 16. So they did not get there by expiration. But it looks like they did not wait until expiration. Well, it looks like somebody didn't wait. There was a lot of flow going up in the Wolf. We talked about these going up on the 29th. Literally the next day, about 14,000 traded and took about 5,000 off the OI, which was pretty sizable. About 60,000 contracts were open on that strike. By the way, 79,000 total traded on the 29th. So we profiled less than half of it. It was a freaking heck of a day out there in the Wolf Feb 16s. And it looks like they took off about 14,000 on the 30th for prices around 52 cents because the stock had already dropped one day later to 13 and a third. They took off some more, about another 12,000 on the 3rd for prices around 91 cents. So looking better there. The stock had rallied back to $14.80. But it still seemed like there was a large chunk. So if they got out of roughly half, maybe a little more. There were still about 25,000 open at expiration. So someone rode 25,000 of these things into oblivion. They took off some for a loser, some for a slight winner. So it seems like they probably scratched on roughly half of it and rode roughly half of it into oblivion. So at the end of the day, not a great trade, listeners, which has got to be, they got to really be kicking themselves now, because just looking at Terawulf, just over the last month, it's up 40%, 5.5 handles. If they had just bought it almost immediately after Feb expiration, and certainly into March, they would have been sitting pretty. So yeah, one of those things, listeners, options have an expiration date, and sometimes it's hard to make that one line up with the move you're looking for. If they had just bought a little bit extra time, they would have been upsized. Instead, they pretty much lost a decent chunk of money. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what say you? They flew too close to the sun in Terawulf. Looks like they got burned, sir.
Yeah, it's one that they got to be kicking themselves after the way with which you described that. For whatever reason, they didn't want to be part of it anymore, but maybe they decided to get rid of the calls and buy some stock or experience the upside in some other type of way. But yeah, there's to quote my good friend, the gambler, Kenny Rogers, who has no idea who I am, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And in this case, they folded when they should have holded.
They folded when they should have holded. There we go. Wise words from Uncle Mike. Let's see if you folks have any wise words. It is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody. Let's get down to business in our questions of the week. Well, before we get there, our chat liked your analogy for Tom Brady talking Bitcoin, but they wanted to remind you, Uncle Mike, that Tom might be talking up crypto, but Scottie Pippen also tweets about Bitcoin quite a bit, according to Mr. Unlimited in our chat. He's always tweeting Bitcoin charts. What do you think about that, sir?
Well, he has a reputation in Aurora of being no tipping Pippin. Where I grew up, he'd always go to the casino, and all the casino workers around town, all the locals would always call him no tipping Pippin. So maybe once he makes some money on Bitcoin, he can start tipping.
Wow, Uncle Mike hanging with the casino workers out there in Aurora. Interesting. The things Uncle Mike knows, the juice on Monday, insight into the casino industry in the suburbs of Chicago today. This is what you come to the dance for here on the show. We had a lot of fun questions for the week for you last week and this week. Obviously, over 2/3 of you, 68.2% of you, were not feeling this ceasefire a week ago. You said the market impact of this conflict will still be felt at the end of the year. So whatever that means, whether that's the straits are still closed, oil is still inflated, markets are still jittery, maybe selling off, vol still inflated. Pick your poison, whatever that means. You're saying we will still be feeling the ramifications and the ripple effects of this at the end of the year. So I guess that just blows off this ceasefire we've got going right now, which is kind of interesting. About 31.8% of you saying no. You're buying what we're selling out there, that you think this thing is wrapping up. And at least for right now, the S&P seems to agree with you folks out there. We also asked you this one at the beginning of the week, and we meant to make this our question of the week, but it looks like we accidentally mismade it for about a day. So it was a question of the day rather than the question of the week. So we already have the results. We asked you at the beginning of the week, we said, Microsoft hanging out 373, Micron trading at 381, so a slight premium at the time for Micron. Let's pull them up right now and see where they're hanging out respectively right now so we can make an honest comparison. Right now, Microsoft 372 and a quarter. Oh, Micron catching a bid, 412 and 3/4. So Micron kind of widening that gap. And I guess that's why maybe our audience went Micron all the way. 57.1%, 42.9% for Microsoft. So Uncle Mike, you were picking Microsoft. I know a lot of our comments went Microsoft, but it seems like at the end of the day, when the rubber met the road, Mr. Uncle Mike, the folks were going Micron. What say you?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, over time, I would prefer Microsoft, but I mean, with Micron has been such a hot stock lately, and I can kind of see why the audience would pick it. So it's just a little bit too scary for my taste. But I do think we have kind of unloaded a lot of our positions in Microsoft in our covered call portfolio. It's kind of had its run. So I can't say that I'm really excited about either of these stocks for totally different reasons. But if I had to pick, I'd pick Microsoft, but not surprised on Micron.
All right. So in order to fix our faux pas from earlier this week, We've got a double header hitting you today. First off, we asked you, again, those April 18 puts were lighting up the tape in VIX today. 6 cents, that's what they're going for today. We just said, quite simply, do you think they will expire in the money? It seems like something's up with Twitter polls today because we're not getting results right away. It's kind of slow. But as of right now, it seems like 100% of the early voters will say, yes, they will expire in the money. We'll keep an eye on that to see how that unfolds. If you want to make your voice heard, that will be running through the rest of the day. And hopefully Twitter will be working by the end of the day so we can see the actual results. And then an interesting one also went live as we were talking, Uncle Mike. Again, along the same lines of this ceasefire, we're asking a very simple question right now. Will this ceasefire hold, Uncle Mike? Will the guns still be silent 1 month from now? Yay or nay? Mr. Uncle Mike, which way are you going? Which way is our audience going?
Well, does Israel's attack yesterday count? Because if that's the answer, no, it won't.
Yeah, I mean, who depends who you ask. Iran says yes. Pakistan, who negotiated the deal, says yes. Us and Israel say no. So, again, a lot to be unpacked here in the coming days. But outside of that, sir, what do you say?
I think it will be. I think that we are in a spot now to where if there really was some more skullduggery, tomfoolery, whatever you want to call it, I think the market would indicate it. And based upon movement of the market the last couple of days, the market tends to believe that the ceasefire is happening and that we're in a good spot. So based on market performance, I think most of this is done. There might be a few little sneak bombings here and there on one side or the other, but I will say it's done.
The market, the arbiter of all things, says Uncle Mike. What do you folks say? I have no idea because Twitter is going crazy and I can't see the results of this. So we'll come back, reveal the results on the Monday show, and you folks can vote throughout the rest of this week and through the weekend. We'll make sure it's extended through that. So get over there at Options. Make your voice heard. Is this ceasefire for real? As we keep going around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, it is time to go around the block, and let's see what's cooking in this here market while Uncle Mike and I have been yapping. And you know what? It looks almost literally unchanged. S&P up about 0.2%, Dow up about 0.8%, NASDAQ up about 0.75%. VIX cash coming back to earth ever so slightly down to about 19.75. That's really the only material change since the start of the show. So not a lot changing since then. We shall see. We shall see how this unfolds. We'll also see what you folks have to say on our question of the week once we can finally see the actual results. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, I think it's kind of obvious, but what are you keeping an eye on till the Monday show?
I mean, headline risk. There's nothing else to watch at this stage. Like I said earlier, I think 68.45 is a key number for the S&P right now. That's the close of last year. And if we can plow through that, then maybe we can get above the 7,000 level. And I can say my trademark saying like the Kool-Aid Man.
All right. That music means we have come to the end of our foray through the world of option block. But you know what? If you're just loving Uncle Mike's Spotlight Week and you can't get enough, guess what? We got an extra special surprise for you. Uncle Mike will be back. Uncle Mike's Spotlight Week continues. We give him a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a hiatus to rest his precious vocal cords. Then he'll be back on TWIFO. What will he talk about? Who knows? You know, if past his prologue, he'll probably want to talk silver, maybe some equities, and maybe some 10-year note. But who knows? He might throw a wild card. He might want to go all in on soybeans or Class 3 milk. You never know what Uncle Mike's up to. Mr. Uncle Mike, in the meantime, if folks want to get a hold of you and chat a little Bitcoin or Class 3 milk, where should they go? What should they do?
Let's add feeder cattle to the mix, too. Check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. Book an appointment with me. Always happy to talk to any of our listeners if you're looking for a financial advisor who likes this stuff. Check out my YouTube channel. We are working on lots of new content as we speak. Type in St. Charles Wealth Management. You will find it.
There you go, St. Charles Wealth, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. You know where to find our old pal, the Flowmaster. He's traveling around quite a bit of late. He's heading out to RMC soon. I will see him in person coming up later on at the end of the month over there at the Options Industry Conference down in Florida. So I'm looking forward to that. Always fun to see the Flowmaster in person. In the meantime, if you want to check out what he and the crew over there at CBOE have cooking, you know where to go. CBOE.com, CBOE.com. If you want to check out the Flowmaster specific items, CBOE.com/RMA, or just go to Trade Alert. You can also find it there as well. That's going to do it for us. Back again in a little bit with the Uncleist of Mike's, if he still has any voice left. And then after all that, the cherry on top, your old pal, the Hot Options Report. And we're back again tomorrow. I got a feeling we're going to have a lot of vol to talk. Should be a fun one. So join us on Vol Views tomorrow. After that, for all you pro folks, we're back getting all hot and bothered on options oddities. You want to check out that madness, you know where to go. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. And then we're back again on Monday doing trivia battles and seeing if ceasefires are holding on the option block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.